The stars are nothing more than distant, cold beacons. To some, they are guiding lights. To others, they are only reminders of how small we are. But to Princess Neres of Arthak, they were a constant, glowing taunt. Her people, once the most powerful in the galaxy, now lay on the brink of extinction. The war with the United Earth Federation had taken everything: their resources, their hope, and most painfully, their sense of identity. As her ship drifted in the void, Princess Neres watched the endless black expanse of space. She'd long given up on fighting. There was no way to turn the tide, no way to reclaim what was lost. She had one mission left: to find a new home for her people, a place to start anew. But even that seemed impossible. Every planet she approached was already colonized or too hostile to support life. She sighed, her silver eyes staring into the darkness. And then, she saw it, an ancient blue world, shimmering in the distance like a forgotten jewel. Earth, the last hope of her people. But even she, with her advanced technology and royal lineage, couldn't have predicted that it would be a human, of all things, who would change everything. Princess Neres's vessel landed on Earth with the silent grace of a shadow falling over the landscape. She had studied their history, their cultures, their wars, and their heroes. She knew their science and their ways. Still, there was a pang of fear as she exited the spacecraft. This world was new, untamed for her kind, but perhaps it could provide what she needed: a new beginning. She arrived in a remote, untouched forest, just beyond the reach of human settlements. She sent out a signal, hoping to connect with any Earth authority willing to hear her desperate plea for sanctuary. Her message was simple: I am Princess Neres of the Arthak Empire. We seek asylum. Help us, or we will perish. Days passed without response. No one came. Neres couldn't fathom why. After all, Earth had a history of extending its hand to those in need, didn't it? But perhaps they saw her as a threat, a remnant of a fallen empire. Or maybe they were too busy dealing with their own wars and struggles to care about one alien princess and a handful of survivors. Neres's hope began to fade. She had been alone for so long, drifting through the cold expanse of space. Her thoughts turned dark. She was the last of her kind, and soon, her people would fade into nothingness. But then, a human appeared. He came from nowhere, walking through the trees with an odd mixture of caution and curiosity. He was tall, with dark hair, and his blue eyes reflected the sky above. His name was Jackson Carter, a former soldier turned recluse, living off the grid to escape the harsh realities of Earth's escalating conflicts. Neres had expected someone dressed in uniform, a diplomat perhaps, but Jackson wore nothing but a tattered jacket and boots. He looked like someone who had seen too much of the world's brutality. "You're not supposed to be here," Jackson said, his voice low but strong. Neres tilted her head, taking in his rugged appearance. "I need your help," she said, her voice tinged with desperation. "My people, we are dying. Earth is our last hope." Jackson took a step forward, studying her closely. He had seen aliens before, though only in the form of ships and rumors. But Neres, she was different. There was something human in her eyes, something familiar. "Why Earth? Why come here?" "I've searched for years, and this world is the only one left untouched by the Federation's reach," Neres replied, her voice breaking slightly. "We cannot survive on our own, but we cannot be alone anymore. I came here for sanctuary." Jackson paused, his gaze drifting toward the sky. He had heard of the Arthak Empire, of their power and their fall, but he had no idea what it felt like to watch an entire civilization crumble. The war had left its scars on Earth too. But what did it matter? He had no ties, no family, no loyalties. He was just a man, trying to forget. "Where's your fleet?" he asked, his voice quieter now. "Destroyed," she said simply, as though the word itself held no weight anymore. "We are all that's left." Jackson's heart twisted. He had lived with regret, with loss, but this was different. He couldn't imagine what it would be like to lose everything. "You'll help me," Neres said, her voice pleading now. I don't have anywhere else to turn. Jackson looked at her, his expression unreadable, and then something shifted inside him. He could walk away, no one would blame him. But something in her eyes made him pause. This wasn't just about survival. This was about hope, about fighting for the chance to live. Without a word, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. I'm no diplomat, he said, but I know people who might listen. As Jackson led her to a hidden base deep in the forest, the tension between them grew. She was a princess, and he was just a man. He had nothing to offer her but his help. And yet, in her company, he felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility. He couldn't help but be drawn to her. The way she carried herself, regal yet broken, strong yet vulnerable. Days passed as they moved from one hiding place to another, avoiding detection from Earth's authorities. But through every moment, something unexpected grew between them. Neres found herself laughing at Jackson's sarcastic humor, even as she watched him warily. Jackson, in turn, found himself captivated by her strength and vulnerability. She was an alien, a princess, a stranger. Yet, in her, he saw something universal. One night, as they sat under the stars, a moment of quiet passed between them. Jackson looked over at Neres, her silver hair glinting in the moonlight. Do you ever wonder if it was all worth it? He asked quietly. All the fighting, all the wars, all the losses. Neres's gaze was distant, but she turned to him. I don't know, she said softly. But I know this. I can't give up yet. Not while there's still a chance. For the first time in years, Jackson felt the weight of something larger than himself. He wasn't just helping her out of pity or obligation. He was fighting for something, too. Something he had thought he'd lost long ago. Their journey wasn't without its dangers. The Federation was hunting Neres, and as they drew closer to Earth's capital, it became clear that time was running out. The Federation would stop at nothing to erase any trace of the artifact. But Jackson didn't back down. He and Neres fought side by side, facing down soldiers and war machines in an all-out assault. In the chaos, there was no time for hesitation, no room for doubt. Their bond had grown too strong. In the final battle, as the Federation forces closed in, Jackson made an impossible choice. Neres could escape, and with her, the hope for her people would live. But Jackson, he was a man, and his future was uncertain. I'll stay, he told her, gripping her hand tightly. You go. You don't have to do this, she whispered, her voice breaking. But Jackson simply smiled. I'm not leaving you. Not now. Not ever. With a final kiss, Neres boarded a Federation ship she had captured and flew into the night sky, leaving Jackson behind. The Federation forces, in the chaos of the battle, couldn't stop her. Jackson's choice was made. He had given his heart, and he had given his life. He had chosen to believe in something greater than survival, in love, in hope, and in the future that could still be built. Neres didn't look back as Earth's atmosphere engulfed her.